Early Breakfast with Rosie Wright on Times Radio.
There's lots of coverage, of course, of what happened on Bondi Beach in the papers. The Guardian says tears, flowers and silence. Sydney unites in grief after the horror at Bondi Beach. There are photographs of some of the victims on the front page of the Times. You kind of just can't bear to look at some of their faces. This includes this little girl, Matilda, who is just 10, the youngest person to have been killed by those two shooters. The Bondi Terror gunman was on a watch list. The Australian authorities are facing significant questions about intelligence failings after the disclosure that one of the suspected perpetrators of the beach terrorism attack had been on the radar of security services. The Daily Telegraph leads with this statement from Donald Trump, who's going to be kicking off his BBC court battle, suing the corporation over the fake news panorama clip, which was edited to give a false impression of events. And the Daily Mail says drivers wrongly fined in speed camera scandal. We'll get the details. Andrew Eborn is here, the Barrister, broadcaster, president of Octopus TV. Andrew, good morning.
Good morning, Rosie. Always a delight to join you.
Now, Bernard Lagan, who was on the programme yesterday, he's the Times correspondent in Sydney, has written up this very moving interview with al-Ahmed, the Bondi Beach hero, as he's being described, who wrestled one of the gunmen and managed to get the gun off him. And he has said, quite heroically, in hospital, he's got, I think, 5 bullets in his arm, that he would do it again. I mean, it's an extraordinary interview.
It's absolutely extraordinary. Yes, I'd highly recommend the piece. Al-Ahmed, the Bondi Beach hero, and he says he'll do it again. The video, which I'm sure people have seen, it's quite graphic, but he's a tobacconist. It shows him jumping onto the gunman from behind and taking his far arm in Sydney. He is recovering from being shot in the shoulder and his hand. And what's happened is exactly this. He was there to celebrate Hanukkah together with several others, and at least tragically 15 people were killed in the minutes before he acted on Sunday night. He himself was seriously injured, and he thought that he may himself die. He wanted a message to his family. He said, "I'm going to die. Please see my family and tell them that I went down to save people's lives." It is, as we celebrate light and so on and so forth, it is a ray of light that in this world there are some great people who put themselves before others. And when he saw people dying, their families being shot, he said he couldn't bear to see people dying. It was a humanitarian act more than anything else. It was a matter of conscience. He's very proud that he saved even one life. He is a treasured hero around the world. Even Trump himself was praising him for his very brave actions.
Yeah, I mean, at least 15 people were killed. And what we're hearing from authorities is his actions prevented more people being shot and undoubtedly saved lives. It's a brilliant interview. You can read the write-up from Bernard Lagan inside the paper. Now, yesterday we heard from the new head of MI6, who said tech bosses are becoming as powerful as nations. What was her warning?
Well, it is. It's the trailblazing Blaze, who is very equivalent to Judi Dench in 007. She is the new MI6 chief, and indeed she is warning that tech bosses are basically the new powerful as nations. It is the massive threat. Perilous technologies and the bosses behind them are becoming as powerful as states. That's what she's warned in her very first speech. She is that now C, its chief rather than M, as in Judi Dench. And our world is being remade by advanced technology that once was the stuff of science fictions. And they're talking about threats now. It's not human threats. It's all to do with tech. As you know, as a futurist myself, I was putting the AI into Britain. We warn about this. It could be potentially not just the biggest human achievement, but also potentially the biggest existential threat. And a lot of these things, this is how the battlefield's now being fought, if you like. It's as perilous as weapons, drones and robots inflicted devastation on the battlefield. Yeah. That's what they need to look at. And it's these algorithms could become as powerful as states. That's what she's warning about.
Yeah, she also says tech firms using AI, they're currently creating drones and other sort of autonomous weapons that are able to kill the enemy, could do so with sort of very minimal human involvement. She's also talking about sort of tailored biological weapons using modern genetic engineering. I mean, it sounds so it sounds pretty terrifying. She is, we should say, she's the first woman to hold this position, and she's the youngest. So it's brilliant to hear from her. There's a front page of her on the front page of the Telegraph. She's wearing a bejeweled insect brooch and sort of channeled Miss Moneypenny yesterday. I'm not sure how much she will appreciate the comparisons, because she wants us to take very seriously the words that she's saying rather than sort of embodying a fictional character.
I think she was more M than Miss Moneypenny. Miss Moneypenny was was more secretarial, I think. But no, definitely the Judi Dench and the M. And we loved her brooch. We thought it was a gong when we saw it. But yes, it looked great.
The Daily Telegraph lead story. Donald Trump has, and there's more details of this sort of overnight, he has launched his legal action. He wants to sue the BBC for $10 billion over fake news. I mean, the BBC has already apologised for what was a misleading edit of the president's speech that was in that Panorama episode. How do you think the corporation should tackle this?
Well, it is interesting because heads have already rolled. The two head people have gone, and it's very tragic. What happened was appalling. It was an appalling edit. But Trump has history in terms of this. He's secured over $31 million. I was looking at this in settlements from major US networks alone. But what he tends to do, he comes in with these eye-watering figures about billions. So ABC News, for example, was sued for unspecified damages. They settled in December 2024 for $15 million, and that went to Trump's presidential library. You had CBS and Paramount. They were initially claimed 10 to 20 billion, figures sounding familiar. They settled in July for $16 million, and that again went to the library. New York Times, that claims the 15 billion, that's ongoing, and so on and so forth. And indeed the Wall Street Journal about various Epstein links. The claim is again 10 billion. What happened was undoubtedly wrong in terms of that sort of stuff. The figures which were claimed are crazy, but there's 2 points to make here. One, in the UK, the statute of limitation is 1 year. In Florida, where he's taking this action, it's in fact 2 years, which is why he's pursuing it over there. It will be a subject of sort of negotiation. They will turn around, the lawyers will talk about all sorts of things, about whether they have jurisdiction. In other words, can the case really go ahead at all? And basically, obviously, the figures are crazy, and nobody will get anywhere near that. If you look at the figures in the UK, and I was again looking at this just before we came on, the highest ever recorded over here was 1.5 million, which was to Lord Aldington in 1989. But in the States, there was a 787.5 million settlement Fox News paid to Dominion voting system in 2023. And you might remember Alex Jones, he faced a massive judgment over $1 billion in the Sandy Hook related cases, although settlements were significantly lower. It is a negotiating tool, but the people who benefit in all of this, Rosie, are the lawyers.
Well, the BBC retracted the report. They apologised, and personal apology to President Trump. Of course, there were two very high-profile resignations. Made it clear, though, that they wouldn't make any payouts. So, what do you anticipate will happen next?
It's a negotiation thing behind that. And as you say, there were Tim Davie, who was a brilliant BBC Director General. I've interviewed him a number of times. And Deborah Turness, who's the Chief Executive of BBC News. Fantastic people. Their heads have already rolled. It'll be up to Trump to prove the level of damages relevant. As I say, there are all sorts of procedural things which are fairly dry and tend not to get reported in the press, why things don't happen. And one of the things they're going to argue is obviously about jurisdiction. Does Florida have the right to hear it? Which would be an interesting thing. And what is the damage which was actually suffered? But undoubtedly it was wrong. The BBC were right to apologise for the edit. It was an appalling edit. But the figures, as I say, won't justify that.
Yeah, and it'll be taxpayer money that goes to the president if he is successful in this action. Let's look at the front page of the Mail. And Kate McCann, who was sat next to me this morning, couldn't believe this story. She said, this happened to me. That it maybe have happened to many people reading the newspapers this morning or listening today. Tens of thousands of people have had their speeding cases scrapped because 40% of cameras on motorways and A roads had a fault. And the particular fault they found is there was a 10-second delay between when a new speed restriction came in. So let's say you're driving down the motorway and you say, oh, the speed is now 60 miles per hour. You start speeding up, but the speed camera is 10 seconds behind. So as soon as you start speeding, the speed camera thinks, oh, we're still in the 50 zone. Right, but you've accelerated. I'm sending you a ticket. It's quite a big fault in the system, Andrew.
It's a massive fault. And as you say, a malfunction in variable speed cameras, it meant that they were not aligned with the speed limits. And this led to more than 2,600 drivers being incorrectly accused of speeding since January 2021, it's been reported. And obviously, there's going to be a lot more people having a look at this, including Kate, obviously. A total, I've been looking at this, 22 police forces have had to pause using these 154 faulty cameras and drop more than 36,000, can you believe it, 36,000 speeding cases as their data is no longer considered reliable. And it is that 10-second delay, which is massive. What's interesting is obviously a lot of people then raise this element of doubt. So people who are facing these particular charges may need to look at that and see whether they might be able to argue this in their case.
Yeah, well, they've set up a compensation scheme, or they're setting up one, I should say,
Yes.
for drivers that have been wrongly fined from anything between £100 and £2,500. Let's say you were sort of sent on a speed awareness course or banned from driving. Clearly, you would be due some quite, more significant compensation. Well, you shouldn't have been speeding so many times to get so many points. Let's say that as well. Final thing, Andrew, I have got a slightly perilous evening because my choir, Clapham Sings, has their annual Christmas concert, and oh no, our drummer has come down with flu. There is a piece on the Times saying how to not get ill before Christmas. Anyone who was listening this time last year knows that I was staying at a family over Christmas that got norovirus on Christmas Day, which was extremely bleak. Some of these tips, though, are stating the obvious and some are slightly silly. What does the Times suggest?
Well, it is the season to be sneezing, as they say, isn't it? They're talking about everything from nasal sprays to keep that sort of sorted. Suck a peppermint, they say, to clear a stuffy head. That's the advice from Professor Andy Smith from Cardiff University.
Apparently
School of
that will make you more alert, having a peppermint.
Absolutely.
But I'm not sure it's going to make you feel much better, really.
Well, it's a combination of all of this. They say take a zinc lozenge only when you get the sniffles or a sore throat. Don't have it all the time. Chicken or turkey soup reduces cold symptoms. And you can try bouillon for your hangover. That's apparently very, very good. And they're saying that rather than vitamin C, you should be having a look at vitamin D is apparently better because vitamin C is good in winter, but a better option for fighting off winter ailments is vitamin D, which carries much more evidence and is one to consider. This is what they're saying. The NHS should all take a supplement during the winter. It will help your immune system. And also, finally, they say try turmeric for indigestion, but don't expect miracles.
And they say it's not too late to get a flu jab. So there we go. If you can get one, maybe if you're not eligible on the NHS, go privately as well. 9 ways to avoid getting sick now. I think actually if you want to be okay for Christmas Day, maybe you do want to get sick now and then recover just in time for the big day. That's not official advice. Andrew, thank you very much. Andrew Eborn, the Barrister broadcaster, president of Octopus TV.
Across the UK, on DAB, online and on your smart speaker. This is Times Radio.